Today's podcast, we're going to look at kind of the wit and wisdom of the great Quentin Crisp, the British erudite writer and presenter and actor and overall great guy who was an inspiration to many journalists coming up in the 70s and 80s for his openness in relation to who he was, as he later says in his before he died, a transgender man growing up in England. Uh, he was the author of The Naked Civil Servant, was a look at growing up homosexual or off the beaten sexual track in England in the 20s and 30s. He had worked as a figure model and writer for a number of years before writing The Naked Civil Servant, which became very popular in England and across the world, which led to his acting career, his speaking career, his one man show, his frontline views about what life needs to be for someone to be happy. He was always a person to see the individual strength of understanding who you were in order to be happy. He once said in his one man show that you cannot be happy in a world that includes everyone like you are. Because he was not really in the gay community, the transgender community, he was crisp sexual. Many people in the gay liberation movement kind of looked at him as a person they could look up to, but he said many times he said he didn't want the burden of having being a cliche for these people. He didn't believe in the gay liberation movement. He didn't believe in. He considered the AIDS crisis a fad. Very controversial comments. So he was not really to the level that people wanted him to be because, he was seeking out his own path. When John Hurt did the infamous movie version of The Naked Civil Servant, that made a bigger star out of Chris, but a huge star out of John Hurt. And, he was in different categories at once. He was an actor, he was a presenter, he was well known for his talk show appearances with Peter Zofsky on the CBC, David Letterman on the States, which are highly visible on YouTube. But his way of speaking and presenting, he could say in 20 words where certain people would take 10,000 to explain the same subject. And for me, when Sting did the song Englishman in New York, very catchy pop tune by the former leader of the police, it brought into focus exactly his theory about life. The only other person I can compare him to, and maybe Toller took a little bit of the Quentin Crisp style and made it his own, was again Toller Cranston, our national figure skating champion in Canada and our Olympic bronze medalist. But Toller seemed to be a little bit more angry about his sexual status in life, while Quentin was on a level of discovery. Because when he was seeking out his own path in life, he was dressing in most of the accoutrements of women with flamboyant hair. He was seeking out sexual partners first as a rent boy, and later on in Second World War as a person who would dress up in women's makeup and nails and seek out GIs during the Blitz. He was looking for love in all the wrong places at first, but looking for love in the right places later on. Very complex individual to really talk about his life in one 20-minute podcast wouldn't do it. You have to basically research. But A Naked Civil Servant is a required reading for anybody who's seeking out not only a sexual path in life, intellectual path, because the biggest problem that most people have is not only their sexuality, if they feel they're intellectually not sustained by the friends and colleagues around them. For example, Quentin saying the 30 years he worked as a figure model, he didn't really feel, fully satisfied. It was just basically a job. But as he got older, he felt more easier in his own skin. So the movies of The Naked Civil Servant, and there's an unofficial sequel that John Hurt also did. I think ITV did it. I think in the late 2000s. It's quite interesting. And he was still doing his one man play well into his 90s or his early 90s. And he did come out as transgender late. And he would always say, you know, if I would have known at age 20 and 25 I could have the operation, I probably would have become a woman. So there was many, many things going on with Quentin. And but to see the way he would respond. He made David Letterman look like a fool in these interviews because David was kind of partially trying to make fun of him, and Quentin Crisp is intellectually superior or was intellectually superior to 99% of the people out there. Very interesting individual. I would suspect he's probably the top 20 person of the 20th century just because Quentin Crisp was a groundbreaking individual for those who wanted to seek their own path. He would always say, and again, these one man performances. If you're not if you're not satisfied with who you are, if you're not satisfied with what you can become, you'll never be satisfied. You must accept, seeking out your own path in life. So again, the last number of years not having him around is kind of a bummer because he wasn't what you call a stand-up comedian, but he was a stand-up purveyor of truth, and that's the best way you can describe himself. His truth and honesty is greatly missed. Anyway, on this COVID Sunday, we wish you a Quentin Crisp type life where you seek out your own meaning in your own pace, in your own time, in your own style. You only have yourself, and like RuPaul said, and I think Quentin probably said it indirectly, if you don't love yourself, what's the sense of life? You have to love yourself. Be a friend to yourself. Pat yourself on the back, and never regret what you do because everything is a learning experience. Have a good day. Bye.